This will be part one. I don't know if there'll be a part two or not. My turn? Okay. How do I feel? I feel exhausted from sorrow. That's how my buddy Luke described us when he wrote about what happened those days. I'm James, or Paul, or Philip, or you can call me Ishmael for all I care. It doesn't really matter. We were often lumped together in one group, the group of disciples, believers, followers, our own social pod, if you will. And that's fine. I mean, Jesus was the real superstar. We were just the main groupies, following him from place to place and making sure he had what he needed, doing what he wanted. It was all good. It's all good. Sorry, I got off track. I do that sometimes. Exhausted from sorrow. That phrase Luke used really struck me somehow. It's just so precise, you know? It's a man who's been torn from his country and enslaved. Or it's a person dying in isolation. It's trying to swim for the comfort of shore, but getting constantly swept back out to the sea and uncertainty. It's a feeling most of us would recognize from afar and fear and not wish on our worst enemy. That's how I felt. That's how we all felt, I think, headed into the garden after dinner that night. Tired, anxious, full of dread. We'd been exhausted before, of course, exhausted from travel, exhausted from crowd control, exhausted from trying to figure out what Jesus' stories meant, and just exhausted from the headiness of it all. But this was different. Jesus was different. Ever since the people waved him into town with those palm leaves that Sunday, things just felt off somehow. I mean, there was the obvious stuff that everyone saw, like when Jesus was crying over Jerusalem being destroyed at some point in the future. Or when he went into the temple and was tossing tables and throwing stuff around. I mean, I'm not sure I'd ever seen him physically angry before, you know? But there was something else, just a weird vibe. I felt like we were being watched all the time. It made me restless. And people kept asking us questions, and they were like trick questions, like they were trying to stump Jesus or something and trap him. But there's no trapping him, man. He's just too clever for those wise guys. So we thought. Then at dinner, Thursday night, things got pretty grim. Jesus was telling us that he was going to suffer. And he was never going to eat or drink on this earth again. And he was giving his body for us, shedding his blood for us. He wanted us to remember him. What did this mean? Was he ditching us? Did we do something wrong? Well, apparently somebody did, because Jesus was accusing Judas and Peter of betraying him. Judas just stormed off. Peter and some guys started arguing about who was Jesus' best friend, who loved Jesus more. There was so much tension. It was draining. But after dinner, we all tramp off to the garden just like a normal night, split into our little mini pods. That garden. It had always been a place of peace for us, you know? It was familiar, beautiful. We had our favorite areas to hang out. But by now, I was kind of creeped out. I know it sounds crazy, but the sky looked darker. The air was heavy and smelled sour. The sound of the wind and the trees in my skin prickle. If the other guys were feeling the same way, they didn't show it. And they didn't talk about it. So Jesus goes off to pray by himself. He tells some of us to keep watch. Watch for what? He didn't say. Stay awake. Is Jesus sweating from praying so hard? Don't give in to temptation. Was he sweating blood? I wanted to do what Jesus asked, of course. I never realized that sleep could be such a strong temptation. These days, I can't fall asleep to save my life. Anyway, I'm trying not to sleep when there's this commotion somewhere. I stumble around, I'm rubbing my eyes, I can hear it, but I can't see exactly what's going on. And then he was gone. Some of the guys ran after him. People just collapsed where they were. I just kind of wandered off. I was too tired to run, to scream, to even think. All of a sudden I was adrift. My tether to everything good in this world was gone. This other guy, John, apparently he remembered and wrote down a lot of good things that Jesus said that night, reassuring things before we got to the garden. Jesus is going to prepare a place for us, John wrote. He is the vine and we are the branches, and we will bear a ton of fruit and our joy will be complete. Sounds great. Huh? But at the time, in the garden, I couldn't remember any of that eventuality. The concept of any kind of joy in the future was unfathomable. I could only remember that Jesus also told us that the world would hate us. They would kick us out of the synagogue. They would try to kill us. I was alone, in danger, lost in the darkness, in the worst night of my life. And Jesus, he just let the brute squad take him away. Why didn't he fight? He could have rained down some locusts or have an angry, loud, scary voice summoned from above. Or let us fight for him. Bring a sword, he tells us at dinner. Then we use the sword and he says, put down your sword. And he heals the guy. What? I mean, what? God, I was so angry. We have been following this guy around for years, seeing him stand up to non-believers and detractors. And now he just lays down and lets it happen. Why? Why? Because it had been prophesied? Because it is written? Well, write yourself a new story, dude. Sorry. I'm sorry. I just felt so betrayed. I know I'm being selfish, but I can't help it. I'm only human. Sorry. Now what? How should I know? We wait and keep striving for those fruitful branches of joy, I guess. I'm so glad I knew him, even though at times it was confusing and exhausting, terrifying. He had an impact on everyone he met, especially us groupies. So I guess I'll go out and teach or whatever, or maybe I'll write down what I remember about the good things to come. In a few days, maybe. I'll get some sleep and try to find that hopefulness again. Find the reasons to look forward to the days ahead. But not yet. I'm so tired. Are we done here? Can I go? Thanks. See you later, Doc.